Have you ever wondered what happens when the sky's untouchable king clashes with the tiny soldiers of the earth? When the arrogance of power collides with the wisdom of nature, the results are nothing short of astonishing. Today's story is not just about the rivalry between a hawk and honeybees. It's a battle between pride and unity. If you want to know the outcome of this dangerous confrontation, make sure to watch the video till the end. And if you love thrilling tales that dive deep into the heart of nature, then don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bestscape Channel. Because here, every moment tells a story. The light of dawn had just begun to touch the peaks of the forest. Dewdrops sparkled on the branches, as if nature had embroidered diamonds across its robe. A gentle breeze carried the crisp breath of morning, and every creature was stirring to welcome the new day. But in the vast blue sky, a shadow was slowly taking form. It wasn't just any bird. It was a hawk, gliding through the air, slicing the wind, eyes locked on the world below. Nothing could escape his gaze, and no mercy ever crossed his beak. He saw himself as the unchallenged king of the skies, unwilling to accept anything as his equal. This hawk was named Zamar. For years, he ruled over the highlands of the jungle. Smaller birds feared his shadow. Rabbits froze at the sound of his wings. Even serpents slithered away from the sharpness of his strike. Zamar had once attacked lion cubs and returned untouched. No beast dared challenge his dominion. But that morning, Zamar's attention was drawn to something else. A scent had reached his nostrils, the sweetness of honey. On the slope of a mountain stood an old tree, long used as a sanctuary by honeybees. Thousands of bees worked under the command of a queen. That tree wasn't just a hive, it was a fortress guarded by a disciplined army. These weren't ordinary bees. Their bloodline carried centuries of battle instincts. They were not mere gatherers of nectar. They were warriors, loyal, organized, and willing to die for the hive. Leading them was a special warrior bee named Sara, fierce, fearless, and brilliant. With a single buzz, she could summon the entire swarm into the skies. The queen bee trusted her beyond all others. Zamar circled the tree, eyes locked on the golden glimmer of the hive. "This is mine," he cried from the sky. "Everything in this jungle belongs to me." But down on the ground, the bees had already taken position. Sara flapped her wings and raised the alarm. "A threat is coming from the skies. Prepare for war." Zamar struck first. Like an arrow, he dove down and landed on a branch near the hive, attacking in a flash. A few bees met their end in his beak, but the rest sprang into action. Within moments, the sky turned black. Thousands of bees formed a defensive circle around Zamar, flying in perfect unison. Some tried to sting his wings, others blocked his vision, disorienting him mid-air. Zamar let out a piercing cry and slashed through the swarm with his might. Many bees were crushed, but Sara gave no retreat order. This was no longer about honey. This was a battle of principle. Zamar had underestimated them. What he believed to be weak, harmless little creatures had now formed into a disciplined army. Sara had divided the bees into 3 units, one for defense, one for offense, and one hidden in the nearby trees, observing every move. Zamar struck again with his beak, but this time the bees dodged swiftly. They began to hover around his face, moving in coordinated patterns, clouding his vision. For a brief moment, everything before his eyes turned to blur and buzzing chaos. That was the exact moment Sara had been waiting for. With a sharp command, she launched a unit of 20 elite bees toward Zamar's right wing. Each of them slammed into his feathers with fearless precision, like tiny soldiers on a suicide mission. Zamar staggered, trying to regain his balance, but his flight began to falter. "I will burn you to ash!" Zamar screamed, his voice echoing like thunder through the trees. But the bees did not flinch. Sara cried out with fierce resolve, "This is our home. We will die before we let you conquer it." Beyond the tree, nearby colonies, hidden among the forest canopy, caught wind of the conflict. Within moments, swarms from other hives had joined the battlefield. What was once a single hive's defense had now turned into a unified front, a war of the forest skies. Zamar, burning with rage, made one last desperate dive toward the hive. With immense force, he slammed into the branch, snatched a few golden drops of honey with his beak. But before he could ascend, dozens of bees hurled themselves at him. Sara herself darted toward Zamar's forehead and struck with her sting, clean, swift, and defiant. Zamar's cry of pain shattered the silence of the jungle. He tried to rise again, wings trembling, blood staining the wind, but the king of the skies was no longer untouchable. He limped upward, wounded, humiliated, and alone. Silence fell once more upon the hive. Hundreds of bees were exhausted, many lay wounded. Some would never rise again. But the hive stood strong, the honey was safe, and nature, once again, had found balance. The queen bee looked at Sara with deep pride and spoke softly, "You have made our kind proud." Sara raised her eyes to the sky, her wings still steady despite the fatigue, and replied, "This was just one battle, but we must stay prepared. For when the hunter becomes drunk on power, it is the duty of the soldiers to become a wall of steel." The battle was over, but the scars remained. Silence had fallen over the hive, a deep and honorable silence. The defenders of the honey had proven, with their very lives, that this fight was not just about sweetness. It was about their existence, their kind, their unity, and their honor. The queen bee gathered all the surviving bees. They silently bid farewell to their fallen comrades. For each fallen bee, a special flower was covered in honey as a tribute. They knew that sacrifice was not only given on the battlefield, but would forever live on in their hearts. Meanwhile, Zamar sat on a desolate peak, battered and broken. His wings were torn, his beak stained with blood, and most of all, his pride shattered. He still couldn't understand how these bees had become so powerful. But what he didn't realize was that true power wasn't in talons and beaks. It was in unity, sacrifice, and fighting for a cause. A new whisper had spread through the forest. Now, birds, animals, and other creatures were sharing stories of the bees' bravery. Sara's name was no longer just that of a bee. It had become a symbol of courage, wisdom, and sacrifice. As time passed, another hawk tried to take control of the skies, but this time, the bees were ready. Each hive now had its own Sara-like warriors, and every new queen was taught the same lesson. When the enemy is strong, soldiers must fight with heart, because the balance of nature lies not in the hands that tear, but in the wings that protect. And so, the defenders of the honey, the warriors of nature, resumed their eternal vigilance between earth and sky, guarding the delicate balance of the world. If this story thrilled you, then you're just scratching the surface of the wild world's hidden battles. Subscribe now to Bestscape channel for more epic, untold tales from nature's fierce battlegrounds. Like the video, share it with your friends, and stay tuned, because in every corner of the wild, a new legend is waiting to be revealed.